Imagine Glassland, a place where everyone is born with colored glasses. They are built in like toenails or fingers. No one even thinks of removing the eyeglasses. The glasses differ. One type reveals an all-blue world. Another paints the world with a golden amber glow. Others act to magnify. Some are telescopic. One kind even drains all color, leaving only black and white. The people of Glassland get along all right, most of the time. Of course, the black and white people hear tales about sunsets from the golden glow people and think those people just don't see the real world. If you lived here, how would you communicate? In some way, we are all Glasslanders. Our glasses are culture. We never take off our culture, and it shapes how we see the world. And that shapes our communication.
Hey, how you doing there?
Hey.
Habla inglés?
Sure. Yes, I do.
You're doing a great job there.
Ah, thank you.
You know, I've noticed you Mexican guys do really good work on the yard.
Oh.
Yeah, I used to have a Mexican work at my place, and he got too busy. Maybe I can ask your boss if you could work for me.
I don't get paid to do this, man. I'm just enjoying myself here.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. I'm your new neighbor.
Oh,
I just moved in here.
Oh, really? That's nice. Well, welcome.
Thank you very much. I work at the General Hospital in administration.
Really?
Yes,
really?
yes.
Well, you know, nice to meet you.
But, you know, I'm not Mexican, you know. I'm from El Salvador. But thank you for the offer.
Oh, really? Well,
Maybe I should get in this kind of business, huh?
Yeah, well, thanks.
Well, sure.
Nice talking to you.
Sure. See you again, huh?
Yeah, so long.
Take it easy.
Perhaps Fred never met a Mexican medical professional. His cultural glasses show Latinos as Mexican landscape workers. His glasses do not reveal differences among Mexicans, Cubans, Salvadorans, or other Hispanics. Fred's hidden assumptions produce what Jose, through his cultural glasses, most likely sees as prejudice. Remember, it's not just Fred who wears eyeglasses. We all do.
My coworkers often ask me if I know Maria Bermudez or Pedro Ramirez, and I say, how could I know these two people when there's millions of Latinos? How could I know them all?
Hey, what do you guys want to eat?
Man, I don't know.
Hey, I'm tired of pizza. What about Chinese? Lee, you're Chinese. I know you got some Chinese places, liar.
Come on, guys, but I don't even like Chinese food. I'm born here in Oakland. My mom's from Japan, so I don't know where the best place is.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew that.
I knew that too. How about burgers?
Let's go then.
Another eyeglass that shapes our view of other people is language. Many recent immigrants try hard to speak English correctly, but they still may have an accent and make grammatical errors. But a difficulty speaking English does not mean a lack of intelligence.
Back home in Romania, I can talk about physics for hours without having any problem. But here, since I don't control the language that well, a lot of people assume that simply because I don't speak English that well, they would assume that I lack the knowledge, basically. And therefore, they simply treat me as a kid or as an undergrad student while I'm actually doing my PhD here.
I noticed that Americans find that English, French, or Irish accents is cute and charming, but they don't find Asian accents as attractive.
Many Americans view using a foreign language as an attempt to hide something or exclude them. Let's listen into this conversation. I just want to be sure you understand. When you file the invoices, they must be done by customer name or I'll never find them again. Is that clear?
Dice que tenemos que poner todo en orden alfabético para que ella no se confunda.
When Mary gave instructions to Eduardo, he turned to Carmen, his co-worker, and spoke in Spanish.
Tenemos que poner las cuentas en orden alfabético.
I wish Eduardo would speak English all the time around here. He knows English. When he speaks Spanish, I get the feeling he's talking behind my back, like he's trying to hide something.
I wanted to make sure Carmen understood the instructions, so I gave the translation from English to Spanish, and hopefully she'll do a better job because of that.
For many cultures in Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and Latin America, social harmony is more important than getting right to the point. In China, it would be rude to say, "I disagree with that," or "No, you're wrong." Americans, on the other hand, use a more direct approach to say what you mean, get right to the point, and speak your mind are clear virtues. But sometimes the direct and indirect approaches can collide.
Miss Yi, I'm glad you're here. Have you seen the new advertising layout?
Yes, I have.
Miss Yi, we read it last night. It's a disaster. Who created this document?
Actually, we all put time and effort and thought to it.
I was told that Joe Hughes authored this document.
Well, we all did it together, and if you're not happy, I'll be glad to talk to the team.
But didn't it come from Joe Hughes's office?
We always try to do things together.
I just want to find out who's responsible for this and correct the problem.
Okay, well, we'll get back to you in about 15 minutes, okay? I'll get back to you.
Thank you.
As a team.
Mr. Franklin was quick to find someone to blame for the failed report.
Joe Hughes, I was told, was the one who created this project and finished it. Is that true?
But Ms. Yi was more interested in preserving harmony than in placing blame.
Actually, we all put time and effort and thought to it.
Mr. Franklin was puzzled, since he expected Ms. Yi to agree with him about who was at fault. For Ms. Yi, preserving social harmony is more important than finding blame or stating opinions.
We all did it together.
For Americans, asking a favor of a friend is pretty straightforward. But what if the friend is an African from Nigeria, where saying no to a friend can be an insult?
Guess what? We're going to a film festival this weekend in Portland. Would you like to come along? Be a blast.
I'd like to, but I have to work this weekend.
Too bad. Well, hey, I really appreciate it if you could do me a favor. Give me a ride to the bus station on Friday.
Yeah, of course, man. You're my friend. Of course I can give you a ride.
I really appreciate it, man. I owe you one.
I may have to, make a few arrangements. But, yeah, I could do it.
Cool.
I told my sister I was babysitting. I'm sure she could stay home from work that day. I would talk to her about making a few adjustments. See if she could stay home that day, take care of the baby.
As far as Ed is concerned, if Tabori couldn't give him a ride, he should simply have said, "Sorry, I'm busy then." Ed would have accepted that, no problem. Tabori gave plenty of clues that giving Ed a ride might be difficult. But Tabori never did simply say, "I'm sorry, I'm busy Friday night."
He said some stuff about babysitting, but I mean, if he couldn't do it, he'd just say no, right? I mean, that's what friends are for. They would just say no. I mean, I say it all the time. Want to come?
But through the cultural glasses Tabori wears, saying no to a friend is an insult. Take a look at the situation through Tabori's eyeglasses.
If Ed were one of my friends back home, then he wouldn't put me in a situation like this. I mean, it's in my culture. In other words, it's not my place to say no. It's Ed's place to make sure I don't have to.
Tabori paused before he said he would help.
Fantastic.
Tabori tried again when he said,
I may have to, make a few arrangements.
And he thought that would be enough. But Ed still didn't understand. Tabori will have to learn that in America, saying no is not an insult. In cultures that favor indirect communication, for example in China and Vietnam, Telling a boss or supervisor, "I don't understand," is considered rude. It would be similar to an American saying, "I didn't understand because you gave such poor directions."
Rather than confront someone, oftentimes the Chinese will just be quiet about it. Sometimes we believe that you say more by saying less.
We all know that sports and games have rules. In basketball, you have to dribble. In tennis, you have to land the ball inside the lines. But there are rules for conversation as well. They are shaped by your culture. What do we mean by rules of conversation? Here are two conversations, both in a foreign language. One involves a group of Italians and is very animated. The other, in Mandarin Chinese, is more reserved, with people taking turns talking and listening. You might not understand their words, but you can see different styles of conversation. But problems result when people say things like, "Those Italians are so emotional," or "You can never tell what Chinese are really thinking." When we see people who use different rules of conversation, we sometimes judge their personality instead of realizing they are playing by different rules. We might judge them as pushy or passive or aggressive. But what we are really seeing are different cultural patterns with different rules. We have our own rules as well. A North American conversation most resembles a game of tennis. One person serves up a comment, and the other person hits it back, and the exchange continues. If the other person talks too much, we can become frustrated because our partner is monopolizing the conversation. Problems also develop when one person responds very little or doesn't keep the conversation moving. Then the conversation breaks down. Many North Americans feel that Latin Americans and other cultures monopolize the conversation or take too long to make their points, while other cultures often feel Americans use conversation as a way to score points or defeat the opponent. Other cultures, the Chinese for example, favor a style that resembles a game of bowling. People wait patiently for their turn and know their place. One's turn to speak is shaped by factors such as relationship to others, age, and status. Long silences are not only tolerated, but valued. For Americans, even 2 or 3 seconds of silence can seem uncomfortable. Now, don't think that Italians cannot listen quietly at times. And yes, a casual conversation among Asians can often resemble more of a soccer game than bowling. Culture shapes behavior, but individual differences are also strong. Not understanding rules of conversation means Chinese sometimes find Americans are pushy, ask too many questions, and don't allow time for careful answers, while Americans sometimes find Chinese speakers passive, uninterested, and often don't say very much.
Back home, we don't really hold debates. The whole idea of scoring points by shooting down each other's opinions, that's not a part of our culture.
I notice in the U.S., conversation is all about taking turns. Back home, conversation is more like voices all at once. It's noisier and it's more animated.
Americans pride themselves on being open and casual. They like to make friends easily based on shared experiences. They have workplace friends, golfing buddies, or old school friends. Other cultures have a more formal approach to friendship.
This your first day?
Yes.
I'm Mike.
My name is Kim.
This right here.
Thank you very much for your help. I needed it.
Hey, look, you're the new guy. Anytime you need help from me, just ask me, okay?
Okay.
She said that he said her boyfriend.
No, he did not. No, she did not say that. I was there.
Hello, Mike. I'm here to study, as you suggested.
Whoa, Kim, this isn't a good time. I mean, I can't, not right now.
I am sorry. I misunderstood.
Americans often say something like, stop by anytime you're in the area, but don't mean that literally. To members of other cultures, this comment is enough to establish a relationship and initiate a visit. After all, don't Americans say what they mean? Americans tend to treat everybody as equals. Other cultures show more awareness of social status. They view treating everyone the same as rude.
Well, here in the U.S., we tend to have a very casual culture. So people are on a first-name basis, even with their professors and employers and employees and so on. When I was in Iran, I had an employee who was helping me conduct research, and I would, being an American, called her by her first name and introduced her by her first name to other people. And she later took me aside and told me that she was offended by that and asked me to please call her Khonum Shamimpur as opposed to calling her by her first name, because it's a sign of respect. And she felt that she was publicly disrespected by my not using her family name.
In China, we treat each other more formally according to position. But in the US, people try to make it less formal. When I first started grad school, my advisor kept wanting me to call him Steve. But I was having trouble doing it because I wasn't brought up that way. I kept calling him Professor Smith. Eventually, I switched to Steve because everybody else was doing it. But in the beginning, it was really uncomfortable to call him by his first name.
Americans often notice that in some cultures, people are surrounded by relatives every day. The extended family plays a larger role in daily life in many cultures, from the Mediterranean to Latin America, the Middle East, and Asia. How grown children relate to parents differs by culture as well.
So, Ilya, I heard you got your degree. Good going.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed myself, and I've learned a lot.
You know, I'm going to miss you so much. Do you have a job lined up?
Well, I'll be working for the National Tourist Board in St. Petersburg.
Wow. Do you have an apartment there?
Actually, the board is close to where my parents live.
That's perfect. You can go visit them whenever you want.
Brianna assumes Ilya will be in his own apartment not too far from his parents, a situation common to many young Americans on their first jobs. Americans typically raise their children to be independent. So Brianna assumes that Ilya, a Russian about to graduate from university, is ready to go out on his own. But Ilya isn't going to live near his parents, he's going to live with them. For him to work in the same town as his parents, but to have his own apartment, is unthinkable. In his culture, parents raise their children to rely on them for help, advice, and support. So what should you do to avoid falling into cross-cultural communication traps? Let's have a look at two people who are trying to communicate.
Okay, enough studying. We have got this thing nailed.
Yeah, I think we got it.
Yeah, you guys, let's wrap it up. I think we're through.
Right.
Hey, come on, Frishta. Don't leave me hanging.
I gotta go. It's gonna be late. Bye, guys.
We don't know what's wrong any more than Alex does, and that's not unusual. We cannot know all the expectations of other people and their cultural backgrounds. In this situation, we don't know if the rejection is for personal reasons, something to do with guys and gals, or perhaps it has a racial explanation. Frishta seems standoffish, and Alex doesn't know why, but he's going to try to find out.
Okay, I've got to say something. Here it goes. Hey, Frishta, how's it going?
Fine, Alex. Did you ace that geometry test?
Yeah, I did okay, but... Say, listen, the other day when I tried to give you that high five, you kind of stiffed me. Were you angry with me or something?
No, Alex, it's nothing like that. It's just... I'm Muslim, and we don't believe in any physical contact with males, not even handshakes. Of course, this doesn't apply to husbands and other male family members, but since we're not married and we're definitely not related.
I didn't know you were Muslim, and I certainly didn't know about the contact thing.
In Sudan, where my family's from, it comes a lot more easily and naturally, but here on campus, it can cause problems because people just don't understand. It's a part of my culture. It's a part of me.
Sure, that's cool. I'm just glad it wasn't because of me. But I'm glad I asked.
Me too.
Are we still friends?
Of course.
You can avoid falling into cross-cultural communication traps. Here are some guidelines. 1. Listen to people and avoid making judgments based on their appearance, skin color, gender, or accent.
I'm not Mexican, you know. I'm from El Salvador. But thank you for the offer.
Oh, really? Well,
maybe I should get in this kind of business, huh?
2. Realize that people from other cultures use different communication rules than you do. You will probably never learn all the rules, but you should realize that differing styles of communication spring from culture. 3. Realize that behavior you think is familiar might have different meanings. Don't attribute personality or character traits to behavior you don't understand. 4. Do not assume everybody's alike under the skin. Although humans share much, they also have important differences. And 5. Communicate. Alex came out a winner because he communicated. That's the #1 way to avoid multicultural traps. Alex knew Frishta was different, but he didn't know how or why. So he talked to her. He realized her eyeglasses might be different from his. Communicating between cultures can be scary, but it can also expand your world. Your cultural eyeglasses shape what you see, and just like the Glasslanders, you can't take them off. But unlike the Glasslander, you can be aware that they color your world and that other people see the same world in a different way.